All right, we're going to go over the warm-ups today, number 5 and 6 both, just because with the FSA writing test, we're going to kind of start running out of time to get everything done. So let's go ahead and get started. In warm-up number 5, question number 1 is talking about systems of equations. I'm just going to write systems. So here what we should be looking for is at least 2 equations to solve. Okay, so a student needs to take 12 classes for a total of 40 credits in order to graduate. The college offers both 3 and 4 credit classes. How many 3 credit classes will he need? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this 12, and that means that his total number of classes that he needs to take are 12 classes. So that's going to be x plus y is equal to 12. Okay, then we're going to look at, we have 3 and 4 credit classes. So 3x plus 4y is equal to 40. Now that I have 2 equations, my systems, now I can solve. Remember, it's asking for the 3 credit classes, which in this case is going to be my x, because I've assigned the 4 credit classes to my y. So if I want to solve for x, I can use elimination. Oops, sorry about that. I can use elimination to solve for the variable that I want to solve for, which is the x. And to do that, I'm going to multiply this first equation by 4. So when I multiply that by 4, I'm going to get 4x plus 4y is equal to 48. Now that I have 2 variables that have the same coefficient, my y's, now I can either add or subtract these. And I'm going to want to subtract because 4y minus 4y is going to give me 0. So 3x minus 4x is going to give me a negative x, and that's going to equal a negative 8. Well, if negative x equals negative 8, when I divide by a negative 1, and divide by a negative 1, I know that x is equal to 8, which the answer is D. Okay, and remember, all I did was solve for my 3 credit classes. I did not need to solve for my 4 credit because it didn't ask me. So question number 2, it says, which table represents the function f of x equals 8 minus 3/4 x? So any place I have an x, I'm now going to replace with these x values and see which ones are giving me the correct y values. Remember, f of x is the same thing as y. So all I need to do is plug in these values and evaluate the function for these given inputs. So I'm going to find f of 0 first. F of 0, okay, is going to be equal to 8 minus 3/4 times 0, which is just going to equal 8. So anywhere I have a 0 for my input, I should have 8 for my output. They all do, so that didn't help. Then I'm going to solve f of 2, because I have this 2 right here, and I'm going to try to go to order. So I have f of 2, and that's equal to 8 minus 3/4 multiplied by 2. 3/4 multiplied by 2 is going to be 6/4, which is going to be, or negative 6/4, which is negative 1/2. 8 minus, it's going to be negative 1.5. 6/4 is negative 1.5. So I'm going to have 8, and I'll show you, minus 1.5, or 1.5. So the answer here is going to be 6.5. Well, when my input was 2, my output was 6.5. Well, that does not match what I have in table D, so I can cross that option out. Okay, now I'm going to look for my next highest x number, which is going to be 4. So let's find f of 4. So I'm going to have f of 4 is equal to 8 minus 3/4 multiplied by 4. 3/4 multiplied by 4 is going to be 3. So I'm going to have 8 minus 3, and that's going to equal 5. So anywhere I have an input of 4, which is right here, my output should be 5. So this works. And I don't have an input of 4 anywhere else. All right, so far A is looking good. Let's find f of -4. All right, this one right here. So f of -4 is going to equal 8 minus 3/4 multiplied by a -4. So that's going to be 8 plus 3, which is equal to 11. So when my input is -4, my output should be 11. Well, this doesn't work, but this -4 and 11 does work. But we've already ruled out D, and now we can rule out C. So let's look at f of 8. F of 8 is going to be equal to 8 minus 3/4 multiplied by 8. Well, -3/4 multiplied by 8. Let's see, 8 times 3 is going to be 24. Divided by 4 is 6. So that's going to be 8 minus 6. And that's going to equal 2. So when my input is 8, my output is 2. Well, that matches here, my B term. It does not match A, so I can cross that out. The only option that I have so far now left is B. So if you want to, you can go ahead and plug in those inputs of 16 and 20. You do get the output of -4 and -7, but if I've eliminated every other answer choice, I'm going to move on. All right, function of the day, we have y equals 3x minus 4. This gives more practice of plugging in an x value to get a y value. Okay, remember we can do this for any function, any type of function, exponential, literal, quadratic. It does not matter. So let's find f of 0 first. Well, that's always going to be whatever my constant is. So I don't even need to plug it in. It's just going to be -4. When my x is 0, my y will be whatever constant. So I can also list my y-intercept here as 0, -4. And I can go ahead and graph that over here as well. When my x is 0, my y is -4, and I can put my point. All right, now let's go ahead and find f of -2. So that's going to equal 3 multiplied by -2 minus 4, which is equal to -6 minus 4, which is equal to -10. -2, -10. Don't think it's going to fit on this graph, so I'm going to leave it alone. When I do f of 2, I'm going to do 3 times 2 minus 4, which is going to be 6 minus 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. So when my x is 2, my y is 2. And I'll make that its own color. There we go. And then we're going to find f of 4. So I'm going to have 3 times 4 minus 4. So that's going to be 12 minus 4, which is equal to 8. So when my input is 4, my output is 8. Again, this is not going to fit on my graph. It's going to be about up here. All right, that slope is pretty steep on that line. Right, and I can color code that. What color haven't I used yet? That's my x-axis. We'll go with this bright pink. That's this point right here. The last thing we need to find is f of 5. F of 5 is going to be equal to 3 times 5 minus 4, which is going to equal 15 minus 4, which is equal to 9. All right, that was warm-up number 5. Now let's go ahead and look at warm-up number 6. It says the value of y varies directly with x. The function represents the relationship between x and y if y is equal to 18 over 5 when x is equal to 24. So for this particular problem, this is not something that we taught, but it is something that we can still go over so you know how to do it if you see it in the future on maybe an SAT. But what we're going to do here is we're going to take these y values and x values, and we're going to set it equal to each other, but we have to figure out the k term. So we're going to have our y is equal to k times x. So we take our y, 18 over 5, and that's equal to our k multiplied by 24. So we're going to treat this just like any other equation. So we have to divide by 24 and divide by 24, and when we do that, we find that k is equal to 3 over 20 times x, which is option B. If you don't understand how, then let's go over this real quick. So we've got 18 over 5. And that's going to be divided by 24, which is the same thing as being multiplied by 24. 1 over 24. Sorry. Which equals, so I'm trying to look, 18 over 120, which then simplifies, 18 over 120 simplifies to 3 over 20, which is our option B. Okay? This is one of those things that I'm just going to star and say, do not worry about. Okay? So let's move on to number 2. Which table shows the same relationship as y equals a negative x squared plus 4x? So again, we have a bunch of x values here, and we need to solve for our y values. So anytime we have an x, we're going to plug it in and find our y. So here are our x values, and we need to compare them with the y values once we plug them in. And as soon as we find one that doesn't match, we're just going to go ahead and cross it out. So we're going to start with f of negative 1. So that's going to be a negative 1 squared. Kind of out of space, so let's try to write this somewhere else. I'm going to write it up top here. F of negative 1 is going to be equal to a negative 1 squared plus 4 times negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1, so we're going to have a negative 1 minus 4, which is equal to a negative 5. So when my input is negative 1, my output is negative 5. And so those two match. So I'm going to give them a check mark. Okay. Let's go ahead and find f of 4 and see if that matches. So f of 4 is going to be equal to a negative 4 squared plus 4 times 4. So negative, or 4 squared is 16, so I'm going to have a negative 16 plus 16, that equals 0. So when my input is 4, my output is 0. Input is 4, output is 0. Everything matches so far. Still can't eliminate anything. Alright, now we're going to find f of 9. F of 9 is going to be a negative 9 squared plus 4 times 9. Well, that's going to be 9 squared is 81, so I'm going to have a negative 81 plus 4 times 9, which is 36. Well, 81 plus 36 is equal to 48. $45. Can't read my own writing. Should have just done the math in my head. So when my input is 9, my output should be a negative 45. And that takes care of A. That means it is not an option. This option B, though, does match, so I can put that check mark there. Okay, so we've done negative 1, we've done 4, and we've done 9. Now let's see what happens when we have our input of 3. F of 3 is going to equal a negative 3 squared plus 4 times 3. Well, 3 squared is 9. Negative 9 plus 12 is 4. So when my input is 3, my output is 4. So that matches. And that's the only one that I have that has that 3 for my input. And if I checked my math, well, that's going to be negative 9 plus 11, 12, which is equal to 3. So that's actually wrong. Because when my input is 3, my output is 3. Sorry about the mistake, guys. C is not an option. So far we've marked out A. We've marked out C. So we're between B and D. All right. Let's go ahead and find f of 6. And that's going to be equal to a negative 6 squared plus 4 times 6. That's going to be negative 36 plus 24. Negative 36 plus 24 is going to be equal to our negative 12. So when my input is 6, my output is negative 12, so that checks out. So now I need to find f of 12. That's going to be equal to a negative 12 squared plus 4 times 12, which is going to be equal to a negative 144 plus 48, which is going to be equal to a negative 96. So that means that this is incorrect because the outputs do not match. When my input was 12, my output was negative 96, not negative 90. So that means that this one is correct. It's the only solution that I have left. So answer D is correct. Lots of math on these. If you need to do your math on a separate piece of work paper, I suggest it because I am out of room on this paper for sure. All right, number 3, there are 12 books. So again, we are looking probably at a systems of equations. The thickness of each book is either 2 or 3 inches. The height of the stack of books is 35 inches. Which systems of equations can be used to determine x, the number of 2-inch books, and y, the number of 3-inch books? So they told us that they want which ones they want each to be. So which system of equations can be used to determine x, the number of 2-inch books, and y, the number of 3-inch books. Okay, so what we're going to have here is we're going to have x plus y is equal to 12 because they have 12 books total. And then you have 2x because we're talking about 2-inch books plus 3y because they told us they want the 3-inch books to be represented by y. And that total, because of their height, is going to equal 35. So x plus y equals 12, 2x plus 3y equals 35. My correct answer is A. The reason why B is incorrect is because they flip-flopped the x and y terms, so that's not correct. C, they flip-flopped the equals portion. They told me that x plus y was equal to 35, and that is incorrect, and same with option D. So A is our correct answer. All right, that is warm-up 5 and 6. Bye, guys. Have a good day. Ask me questions in class if you are still confused.